After losing the boat during an accident, an unconscious Jen washes ashore on an island. When she wakes up, she sees her friend Brad nearby and runs to check on him, only to discover he's got a large piece of coral sticking out of his stomach. She yells for help, but nobody answers. After taking the flare gun from his vest, she drags Brad away from the shore. She removes the coral and covers the wound with some fabric. Jen thinks he needs some water, so she runs into the jungle to find a coconut and opens it with a rock. Unfortunately, by the time she returns, Brad is already dead. Afterward, tired Jen explores the island, but walking down the beach just makes her do a full circle until she's back where she started. Then she explores the island and finds a bunch of stuff that's been there for a while, judging by its condition. So she searches the bag and finds some medicine. Next, she checks the cooler and finds some sealed soda bottles. There are more objects under some leaves, like a little metal box in which Jen finds matches, some sailcloth, and a bag with toys. Suddenly, Jen hears a weird noise and goes looking for the source. It's coming from a hollow tree, and when she looks inside, she's startled by a bird flying out. Then Jen covers Brad's body with some big leaves. Noticing the sun setting, she looks for a spot to spend the night right before it starts raining. She covers herself with the sailcloth and leaves some coconut shells to collect water. The following morning, Jen finds lots of dead fish on the shore and begins collecting them in a bag. She's also shocked to find a half-eaten dead shark with nasty gashes on its body. Jen uses rocks to cut all the heads off and keeps the fish in the cooler for later consumption. While looking through another bag, she finds a notebook and tries to read it, but the water has erased all the text. Among the pages, there's a picture of a couple that makes her feel extra lonely. The next time Jen explores the island, she finds some piles of rocks and a cross-shaped branch, which makes her realize those are graves. This inspires her to dig a hole in the sand and throw Brad's rotting body in it, then cover it with leaves and sand, finishing the grave with a piece of wood with Brad's initials. That night, Jen hangs the sailcloth with gashes that match the shark and starts a fire with the matches to cook the fish. In the morning, Jen is horrified to discover Brad's body is missing, and the grave is full of blood. Realizing there's something dangerous out there, she uses a sharp rock to make a spear. She also brings a log to use as support so she can spend the evening sitting with her eyes on the jungle. Eventually, Jen falls asleep and is woken up in the middle of the night by a strange noise. However, she can't see anything among the trees and assumes it was the fire. The next day, Jen notices some items floating nearby and gets in the water to retrieve them. Before swimming back, she dives to check if there's anything else, and she's shocked to see a mysterious hole in the ocean's floor. She doesn't dare to go closer and returns to the shore with her new things. She finds a bunch of clothes inside a suitcase, so she changes into something warmer. That night, Jen checks the box again and discovers pictures of the dead owners. Suddenly, she hears a plane fly by, so she immediately runs to the shore to shoot a flare. But unfortunately, the plane doesn't see it. As the flare falls into the sea, it reveals the silhouette of a strange, tall monster. A terrified Jen hurries back to grab her spear and runs to hide in the jungle. Soon, the creature steps on the island and searches among the bushes, but it doesn't see Jen and leaves without attacking. The following morning, Jen notices the monster made a mess out of her camp. When she picks up the old pictures, she discovers the monster's eyes in the background. Desperate to escape, Jen puts Brad's and her life vests inside the suitcase, then takes it to the water. She intends to use it as a raft, but the suitcase isn't stable enough to support her weight. Jen throws it back with lots of frustration. Before the sun sets, Jen hides inside the hollow tree to sleep safely. Later, in the middle of the night, Jen is woken by the noises of the monster arriving on the island. It grabs her log, rolling it and pounding on it, forcing Jen to concentrate on staying silent and shielding her head. After relentless shaking and growling, the monster finally gets bored and leaves. Days go by, with Jen surviving by fishing during the day and hiding in a hole at night. After much practice, she finally manages to kill a small shark with her spear. She hangs it on a tree before retreating to her hole for the night, but her rest is interrupted by the familiar sounds of the monster taking the shark away. Sometime later, the waves bring another body to the shore. When Jen approaches, she discovers its face is disfigured by severe wounds caused by the monster, and its legs are missing. She hoists the body onto the tree and hides in her hole. determined to stay awake this time. From her hiding spot, she watches the monster arrive, quickly pulling the body down to feed on it. At that moment, Jen hears a plane fly by and gasps, but she dares not move as the monster prowls near her hole. When it fails to find her, it retreats back to the ocean, but by then, the plane is gone. The next day, Jen uses the sailcloth, belts, and rope to craft a hammock that she hangs high in the trees. From her perch, she has a better view of the area and hopes to stay out of the monster's reach. That night, Jen lies uneasily in the hammock, only to see the monster moving among the bushes below. Suddenly, it begins pulling at the ropes. Jen screams, struggling in the sailcloth until she tumbles to the ground. She gets up and runs as fast as she can, the monster chasing her, leaping in and out of the water to close the distance. A terrified Jen thrusts her spear into its body, but the beast retaliates, hurling her onto the sand. It strikes her again, sending her flying into the water. Just as it seems the end is near, a sudden thunderclap booms through the air, startling the monster and sending it retreating into the ocean. Exhausted, Jen climbs a tree and braces herself for the night, enduring the rain in a painfully uncomfortable position. By morning, Jen checks her leg and finds a nasty wound. As she washes and changes clothes, she notices a life raft floating nearby. Without hesitation, she jumps into the water and swims toward it. Inside the raft, she finds two people, her boyfriend Lucas and Brad's girlfriend Mia. Jen helps them reach the shore, and the couple embraces in a tight hug. Jen shares her fish and sodas with Lucas and Mia, trying desperately to explain the danger they're in. She tells them about the monster, shows them the picture, and even recounts what happened to Brad. But her words fall on deaf ears. Lucas and Mia exchange doubtful glances, dismissing her story as the delusions of someone too long alone. Frustrated, Jen announces she's going to get more food and borrows Lucas's knife. As she prepares to clean the fish, she notices something unsettling, blood already smeared on the blade. Suspicion gnaws at her as she presses her case again, urging them to leave. The tension boils over into an argument, with Lucas shouting her down and Mia siding with him. Later, while her friends are distracted, Jen gathers her belongings and quietly pushes the raft into the water. Just as she's about to make her escape, Lucas and Mia spot her. They sprint toward the raft, Lucas grabbing Jen as she struggles to break free. In the chaos, Jen kicks Mia in the face. Enraged, Mia retaliates, swinging an oar and knocking Jen unconscious. When Jen regains consciousness, she's horrified to find herself tied to a tree. Her pleas to be released are met with cold refusal. Mia walks away, leaving Jen alone with Lucas, who seizes the opportunity to vent his frustrations. His voice drips with bitterness as he complains about Jen's attitude, reminding her of how much fun he'd been having with his friends on the boat. Jen winces at his words, knowing now isn't the time for this, but Lucas barrels on, yelling about how she has no home, no money, and no life without him. She insists they need to leave and can sort out their relationship later. Meanwhile, Mia walks along the shore, noticing pieces of fish floating in the water. Suddenly, a scream pierces the air. Jen and Lucas snap to attention, and Lucas grabs a torch, racing toward the sound. When he reaches her, he sees the monster has captured Mia. Acting on instinct, he strikes the beast with the torch, but it easily shoves him aside. Without hesitation, the creature leaps into the sea, dragging Mia with it. By the time Jen finally frees herself from the ropes, it's too late. The following morning, a shaken Lucas finally agrees to leave the island with Jen. Together, they gather and cook as much fish as they can to prepare provisions for the journey. Once ready, they load their supplies onto the raft and set off at last. Inside the raft, Jen can't help but notice multiple stains, her suspicion rising. As Lucas rows, beneath them, the creature swims ominously. When it makes a sudden lunge for Lucas, he scrambles into the safety of the raft, and Jen quickly seals it shut. But the monster doesn't relent. It begins scratching at the bottom of the raft, each strike making the fragile structure shake. Moments later, a powerful punch tears a hole, and the creature's head bursts through. Jen acts fast, kicking the beast while Lucas fumbles with the flare gun. The first shot misses, but with the second, a flare strikes true, lodging in the creature's mouth. The duo uses the chance to push the creature back into the water. For a moment, they think they're safe, but the creature reaches through the raft's base once more, dragging Jen underwater, intent on pulling her into its hole. As she struggles against its hold, Jen recalls Lucas's knife and uses it to wound the beast. The creature releases her and swims away. In that moment, the creature turns its attention to Lucas, who is jumping into the water to rescue Jen. It speeds toward him, seizing him just as he reaches her, pulling him into the depths. Grief-stricken, she swims back to the shore, but her eyes catch sight of the fire they thought was out. It still has a faint spark. Without hesitation, Jen rushes to rekindle it, working furiously until the flames roar back to life. Then she grabs the notebook and writes a letter, detailing everything that's happened, in case she doesn't make it. A plan begins to form in her mind. She sets to work making spears, gathering wood and leaves, and digging holes in the sand. As she digs, she uncovers bones, and she decides to incorporate them into her strategy. When night falls, the creature emerges from the water. It prowls through the jungle, following the trail of the bait. But Jen is ready. She lights several pyres on fire, trapping it in the center. Jen surprises the creature, striking it before quickly running to hide behind a tree. The injured creature searches for her. Jen waits, hoping for the moment when its back is turned. When it finally faces away, she readies herself to strike with a bone. But in an instant, the creature spins around and knocks her down with terrifying force. As she sees the beast faltering, filled with pain, she knows it's weak now, and that gives her the courage to keep fighting. While she fights for her life, sometimes she gets hit in the process. After she frees herself from the creature, it grabs her legs, dragging her back toward it. In an instant, it lifts her by the face, ready to finish what it started. Jen takes out one last piece of bone, and with all her strength, repeatedly stabs the wound she left earlier, determined to force the monster to release its grip on her. However, the pain is too much, and she can barely move anymore. Jen uses the chance to run back to the beach and grab more spears. Soon, the creature catches up to her, but after roaring very loudly, it collapses on the sand. But Jen knows this isn't over yet. She steps forward, her resolve hardening, and with a swift motion, she finishes it for good. Then she takes a piece of its very hard shell and uses it to cut the monster's head off. With the head as proof of what happened, Jen begins making her way to the raft while the jungle burns behind her. And with that, this story ends here. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.